It can travel anywhere in time and space.
Right. This is gonna be fun.
Off we go.
Into time and space!
Welcome to Time and Space, the Nerd Party's dedicated Doctor Who podcast. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm her husband and co-host, Phillip Gilfus.
What sort of banter shall we start with today, my darling?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's been another busy week. This might be it for me. Still doing GRE prep and then trying to turn in my PhD application. So,
And I'm making a musical.
Right.
So
we're being nerds and artists, I guess.
Yes, but it's always nice to do a podcast together because then we get to be in the same room, which is exciting.
Exactly. Well, yeah, so let's just get into it. We're, of course, going to be talking about Demons of the Punjab, the sixth episode of Series 11, depending on how you're counting the series. It premiered November 11th, 2018. Would you like to read our synopsis, darling?
Yes, please. With Yaz desperate to learn more about the life of her grandmother, the 13th Doctor brings her friends to the Punjab in 1947 to meet her in the past. But with a marriage unknown to Yaz on the cards and the partition of India threatening to pull her family apart, it may not be the mysterious demons that are the biggest threat.
Yes, and here to help us talk more about this is our special guest, and that is Miles. Miles, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Sure. And would you like to talk about how we know each other?
Oh, well, we know each other because I also have a podcast. It's called Doctor Whose Line Is It Anyway?, which basically is a comedy improv Doctor Who podcast. We get existing episodes of Doctor Who, we watch them all together, and we turn the sound down, and we make up stuff over the top of it. So, and we know each other because you are now one of our cast members. So,
yes, it's been fun. Apart from time differences, it's been very fun.
Oh, time differences! We know time differences very well.
And of course, interestingly enough, the reason I got hooked up with your podcast was because we had Kat on as our guest about several months ago, talking about Galley 1, which we will now be attending, so it all mushes together about spreading the word about all things Doctor Who.
We're all one big happy family.
Yes.
You say happy.
I don't know your personal life that well.
Well, I know, Miles, you said you've been itching to talk all things Doctor Who, so before we get to this specific episode, what have you been thinking of the 13th Doctor's run so far? I'm
enjoying it very much. I'm old school. I'm very much old school. My first episode, I think, was the Sea Devils. It's the earliest thing I can remember, and that goes back to when it was originally on transmission in the UK. So I'm coming to the table here with a 46-year history of Doctor Who. So.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that how much, of course, every Doctor is new, but of course we have a new showrunner, even though he's written before, but do you feel like there's a lot of new things, or is it just sort of, the homage continues, or were you from a classic perspective on all that?
I've enjoyed every single iteration of the show, even the Colin Baker era.
Oh, see, I was about to say that.
Bless him.
Now there's going to be a fight.
And you're going to do your Perry imitation.
No, I really do. I love the whole show in every format. This does feel different. This possibly feels more different than anything has felt so far. And there are times when it hasn't quite felt like Doctor Who to me, I must confess, but I'm still enjoying it incredibly much. Jodie, I think, is doing a great job. I'm loving the team. And we've had some very good episodes.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, especially with this episode, and we'll get into it, but generally speaking, I feel like these episodes have been, and this is not a good word, but for lack of a better word, softer than other Doctor Who episodes. And that's not a criticism, but it's more sort of, in a way, it's almost sort of more classic British drama. It's very subtle.
Yes.
It's not like the universe is going to explode or big human monster. There have been, but it's just more like about the people.
I think Chibbers is breaking everyone in gently with this.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, you could get these very contained episodes, very contained stories where the threat was very localized. It's tended to get grander and more grandiose and wider reaching as the new series has progressed. So this is kind of, yes, in a way, going back to the old days, but with a new slant on it. And yeah, it's good. It's nice not to have, the universe at threat every single week, because it's a bit old hat after a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like it that we're also getting a lot of stories where there's no majorly threatening villain, or even a villain at all, in fact, and that the villainous threat is something that we're not expecting.
The villain is us.
The villain is yes, yeah. Well,
Yes.
for the second time in 4 episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's get into it. Now, I thought one of the things that has been sort of going on in the faniverse, or in the whatever you want to call it, is that we want to hear more about Yaz. We want to hear more about Yaz, and so this is quote unquote a Yaz episode, but is it really? And so, what do you think, Jessica? Is this really a Yaz episode?
I mean, I don't think we learn more about her necessarily, although we do learn a little bit more about family dynamics. She's the favorite granddaughter.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And this is the first time we've met her grandmother.
Right. Hanani.
So that we learned that, and
Expanding her family universe, I guess.
yes, and still this lack of communication. There's this whole life that her grandmother had that they don't know that she doesn't talk about, and of course we now know why. But even at the end of it, when the grandmother offers to tell her about the watch, and Yaz says, "No, don't do it right now," which I found an interesting choice, and may have just been, don't do it right now because we only have 5 minutes left in the episode.
An extra 5 minutes, it seemed like. But.
Yeah.
Wait for the
so
DVD special release.
Yes, yeah. So I think that we learned more about Yaz, but I'm not sure it's a Yaz episode.
Yeah. What have you been thinking about Yaz, and what do you think this episode did for her, Miles?
Again, yes, I agree with Jessica, really, that it didn't focus on Yaz as much as I thought it was going to. We're getting more of a flavour of Yaz as time goes on. I think each episode something is added to the mix. So it's almost like Christmas Day and very slowly unwrapping a present. And just getting a little hint of what it could be. I can see a bit of yellow there. I wonder what that could be.
Stop shaking Yaz.
She's rattling. Yes, and so yes, I think that's what we're getting, and I think we're on a slow burn with Yaz, and I think this is very possibly deliberate. We've gone in quite hard and fast with Ryan and with Graham, who have made a big impact, and Yaz is the in horse racing terms, she's the one who's coming up from behind on the rope. She'll be making progress as the race goes on. I'm sure we'll get to learn more and more about Yaz as time goes on, and that's good because we don't need everything all in one hit.
Yeah, and I think not criticism. Someone has been, or a lot of people have been saying that Yaz is sort of the the logical person, the Nissa, if you will, of the group. And here she's acting emotionally, everyone's like, I think our hour's up, and she's like, no, I'm staying by,
Yeah.
But which is a natural reaction, of course, given all this mysterious. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rose episode where they meet her dad, or
Oh yeah, it was a lot like that in terms of, no, we can't go back. Oh, we're going back anyway.
Yeah.
And we can't interfere. Oh, we're interfering.
But with Yaz being way more restrained than Rose was.
Exactly.
Yes.
She's not like, that's not my grandfather. Well, she almost said that.
Yeah.
I did like how much the Doctor is, I was saying something the other day about watching an episode, we haven't seen her use psychic paper, and then she finally did. But she's very, doesn't use it that often. She's just more of the, creating excuses and reasons of why they're there and correcting people of and we're here for the wedding blessings. That's why we're here. Yes.
Yeah.
And,
And I'm liking
who
this.
we are.
I'm liking this a lot because this is harking back to what the show always used to do. The sonic screwdriver was never the be all and end all. It was never the solve everything device that it is now. The sonic screwdriver of today is more like an iPhone that can do everything, as opposed to the thing that you used to plug into the wall and have to dial. That's what it was back in the day. And for the second time this series, we've had the sonic screwdriver basically taken out of action, and the Doctor having to use her brain and improvise and come up with a wonderful selection of ingredients, including ox spit and chicken poo. So
no, not chicken poo for me. No, like how Ryan called that.
Yeah.
So so that's good. It's the Doctor should be seen to be using her brain and intelligence and personality to get out of the problems, and not relying on the magic device that does everything.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're getting a lot more science.
I was about to say.
Because of it. Yeah.
I did like how at first she just said, I'm doing science. I was like, are you going to go any more specifics into that? Yeah. But then she did, which I thought was interesting. I'm just sciencing all over the place, which we usually make fun of in Star Trek. We're just sciencing all over the place. But, Doctor Who, which is not necessarily known for its, hard sci on the sci-fi end, is now, starting to pick it up a little bit.
And she's very good, isn't she? She's very good at the scientific stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and all of the engineering stuff. I love her welder's helmet.
Yeah.
She's rocking that.
But she's good at talking us through it. Is what I mean. Obviously, the Doctor's always going to be good at the science stuff, but Jodie's very good at explaining what she's doing. So.
Yes, absolutely, and I think there may be method in that madness towards. More women in STEM and things like that.
So there's going to be a bunch of Doctor Science kit for kids for Christmas?
Yeah, absolutely. How brilliant would that be?
Build your own Sonic or something.
Yes.
So again, I think Chibnall, in my mind, I'm sure there's another way of saying it, sort of creates the what do you call it? Not the living room drama, almost.
Kitchen sink drama.
Yeah, but of sort of creating the smallish cast, I mean, not including Team TARDIS, of all these characters. We can almost see this as a stage play, because he develops these sort of 3 or 4 extra characters in such an interesting way. So, we have sort of young Umbreen, and then we have her fiancé/husband, Prim, and then Manish, Prim's brother, and Hasna, the mother, if I'm saying all those names correctly. But I thought they each had good definition, giving the small time we knew, that there was meaning, whether someone was a betrayal or a death or, whatever. It all gave them life.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I think this was the issue that I had with last week's episode was that there seemed to be a very large cast for a short episode, and very difficult to really get a handle on people with that, whereas this one was far more contained. I know it was a fairly large family, obviously, but it was because everybody was in together. It made it a lot easier to, as you say, to get a flavour of everybody very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, with you being a classic, we're going to make you a classic expert for the purposes of this episode, Miles. So the histories, right? This is a history. And this is, I think, an interesting one when you have people like Yaz on Team TARDIS. You can sort of tell perhaps different stories, or at least have a stronger connection to the companions and the Doctors than you used to. So now we get a good Empire story, if I can use that term, that, we don't necessarily get, that doesn't have as much meaning that if it doesn't involve one of the companions. But, when you... I don't know how much you knew about going into this episode. Did you know it was going to be about Partition Day, and then... what did you think about that once you either realized that or heard about it?
Yeah, well, it was obviously when the episode title came out and the brief synopsis, then clearly that was what it was going to be about. Indian history is not something that was studied at school when I was there, possibly more these days in the more multicultural society that we live in. So I didn't really know a lot about it. I knew that Pakistan had come into existence pretty recently. I didn't know all the ins and outs of it, and I didn't realise it was such an upheaval and a terrible time. And it was very interesting finding out that side of things, and really struggling to understand how such a terrible thing could have happened.
Yeah, because I think it's an interesting story. I mean, from an American standpoint, of course, we know nothing, of course. But I mean, of course, this is India and Pakistan history. I'm not trying to whitewash it, but it's British history in as much as, who's responsible for Partition Day, and it's I wonder, as for a British audience, both of the diverse audience that is, what those meanings are for people who watch that of like, this is the thing that we did, and
Yes, the British Empire was, when I was growing up, was seen to be this great thing. It was basically the British travelling around the world and imposing our ideals on people.
planting flags.
Yes, and whilst there were good things that came out of it, clearly it wasn't all good, and it was quite oppressive in some ways. And so the fact that this was recognised and countries were handed back to to their own governments and what have you over the time has obviously been a good thing. But in this instance, possibly not handled as well as it could have been in view of what we've seen in the episode here, and obviously what happened in historical records.
Mm-hmm. And did you know anything about this going in, darling?
No, I didn't. It felt a little bit... I don't think I realized how many places there were like this. Mm-hmm. It echoed a little bit of Irish history to me as well, and Northern Ireland, and those sorts of arbitrary... You get to live on this side, and we get to live on this side, and never the twain shall meet kind of things. That seem to be such, and same thing with Israel and Palestine. You've
or
got
Afghanistan,
that. Yeah, you've got these arbitrary lines that are supposed to draw apart people who really probably have way more in common than they have in differences. Yeah, so it is a historical norm, I suppose, that I find really frustrating because I don't understand it. I don't know how to fix it.
Yes. This is the thing. I mean, I don't come from a religious background, and so the idea of people so pulled apart by the idea of their religious differences is a very difficult one for me to come to terms with, and this is clearly what was going on here. It wasn't just the fact that some people were in one country when they had been in another country. It was the fact that it was Hindus against Sikhs against Muslims, and never the twain shall meet, as you say. And intolerance is one of the worst sides of humanity, and clearly here, it erupted into this dreadful, terrible catastrophe.
And then, how do you think of this kind of a history, or this season of histories? How much it's teaching and telling a story.
Well, I think it's great because I didn't like history at school particularly. I found it very boring. I found geography boring, and most of the knowledge that I seem to have, I claim to have got through Doctor Who over the years, as things have come up in the programme that I've thought, oh yeah, that's interesting, and those are the things
You're
that have sunk in.
You're an expert on Aztecs and Marco Polo.
Well,
and...
yeah, this is the thing. These are the knowledge that I have about these things are things that I've gleaned from Doctor Who. Obviously not entirely accurate. My knowledge of the gunfight at the OK Corral is way out of factually, but yeah, this was when the show was created back in 1963. One of the things that Sidney Newman was very keen to bring about was the fact that it was an educational as well as entertaining programme, and we're getting that again this year. The whole Rosa Parks civil rights movement in the US is not something, certainly again going back to when I was at school, which wasn't obviously that much after when the event happened, but it wasn't taught. Partition didn't know anything about that, so this is a very useful thing to inform the general public out there who might not know about these things, and these are very, very important historical events that we should have learnt about, we should have known more about, because if these things had been taught back at the time when I was at school, then there may have been a lot more tolerance than has ended up being over the years. And if Doctor Who can help to accelerate that tolerance, then amen. Yeah,
and having the sort of diversity of Team TARDIS kind of helps those stories, because Ryan can tell the Rosa story better than, Graham, and then,
Well,
Yaz can
you
tell.
say that, but he couldn't, could he? Because he didn't actually know about it. But he was.
That's true.
But he was.
Could live it.
He was living it
Yes.
because of racial intolerance. So.
And I think it's also making us face the fact that as you've got written down here, that the villains are us, and sort of look at, the white people in Southern America, that they were the problem. That it wasn't some
Slick-back
demon or alien
Yeah.
that we can blame the problem on. It was the people who were living in the time. And the same thing for this episode. The people who are responsible for this are the people in the story.
Yes.
Whether it be the ephemeral British, because we obviously don't
Lord
see that sort
Mountbatten.
of
Yes.
or Manish and his ideas and things like that. We have to face that and take that responsibility, whatever that looks like.
Yes. Yes. And for the second time this season, the title of the story is misleading. Because the woman who fell to earth, the obvious thing you think is it's going to be the Doctor. Well, it was, in a way, but primarily it was Grace. In this one, Demons of the Punjab, the demons aren't the Vajarians. It's the racial intolerance and the hatred that was within the human race. Those were the demons.
And then just going to the supposed villains of the piece for a moment, I thought they were sort of interesting. They kind of remind me, this is going to be really far off, but they reminded me of the, I forget their name, the vulture people from Sarah Jane, who were there for the funeral of the Doctor.
The Skinsari, was that something like
Something. Of course, they turned out, pretended to be good and then it turned out to be bad, but they're sort of the same. They were the funeral people of the universe.
Yes.
And so these assassins have now become the witnesses of those who die alone.
It was possibly closer, in fact, to testimony from Twice Upon a Time.
Oh, that's true. Yes, keeping the memories alive, or at least.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And I liked that. I wish we had gotten, the episode was an hour and 15 minutes, and I may say this at every episode. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more about that change, that shift from assassin to memorialist.
Sure.
But again, very difficult to go into that much detail of it within the confines of the story, which, in all honesty, again, the Vajarians weren't the focus of the story.
Yeah.
They were there to be the red herring, to make you think that they were the demons.
Yes.
Whereas, it's more pure historical. Really, this one and Rosa, we've had the pseudo historical side with the sci-fi element in it, but both stories are very, very much focused on the actual historical events. So in many ways, they're more true historicals than pseudo historicals. Still, I would say.
Yes, and focusing more on the Thajarans would have taken away from that. I did really love the end of it, though, when they had the picture of Prim, the holographic image, and then it rose, and there were so many other pictures. I almost cried.
Yes, that was brilliant. I was a little bit disappointed not to see the floating Hartnell and Troughton heads from Dimensions in Time in amongst those.
Oh, crikey.
There's a deep dive for you.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure, like everyone else, after these episodes, you go to Wikipedia. But I just want to read a really short paragraph about Partition Day. Was again from Wiki. The newly formed governments had not anticipated and were completely unequipped for a two-way migration of such staggering magnitude, and the massive violence and slaughter occurred on both sides of the new India-Pakistan border. Estimates of the number of deaths vary, with low estimates at 200,000 and high estimates at 2 million. The worst case of violence among all regions is concluded to have taken place in Punjab. Virtually no Muslim survived in East Punjab, and virtually no Hindu or Sikh survived in West Punjab. So, yeah.
Amazing. Just
Yeah.
staggering, really. That
And-
people can do that to people. It's
Yes, for they're your neighbors. That you can not just do it to faceless people, but the people who lived. Your brother, in the case of this particular episode.
yes, and
Or your
also
sister-in-law, yeah.
when the lynch party were coming up, the guy on the horse that Prem said, "Oh, I know you.
Oh, yes.
We fought in Siam. We were a good team."
Yeah.
And that's the man with the gun. So presumably he's the one who actually shoots Prem. And
Yeah.
they'd been a team, and because of this partition, all that goes out the window. It's horrible, really horrible.
And I mean, it's such, as a writer, it's such an interesting premise to tell halfway through an episode that this character is going to die. Which you would think like, oh, well then, you've told me everything. But I think the power of how they deal with that through the second half,
Yes.
and then of course not showing you it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much power, and again, it's almost that Rosa-like thing. You can't interfere in something horrible,
Yeah.
because things have to go the way things are going to have to go. In other words, in order for Yaz not to be, not born, you have to have this happen. And,
Yes, I think it was
So
very
we
clever
have to
the way
walk
that the way that they did that this time with not saying anything outright, but it became as soon as it was immediately apparent that Prem was not Yaz's grandfather. Then, well, if he's not and he's marrying her, then but she married somebody else. So what's happening here? And it dawns on you quite quickly that he's not going to see this out, is he?
Yeah, this is not going to go
This
well.
is not going to go well. Yeah.
and then just to have the sort of the, I mean, I'm sure it's not called a stag party in the Muslim Hindu tradition, but having the two stag
I think
dudes.
that Graham refers
Yeah.
to it as a stag,
But of
doesn't
course,
he?
yes,
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that.
He's still using call the midwife phraseology.
Yeah.
Yes. I did love the fact that he was like, hey, I could sing you some oldies or some current hits that you know.
Well, that's almost an in-joke because Bradley Walsh has recorded an album of classic tunes. He's actually a very good singer. So his comment about, oh yes, I could knock out a few tunes for you is
And Ryan's like, please don't let him sing.
yeah.
Yeah, if they didn't let Billy Piper sing,
That's true.
they don't get to let
Graham.
Graham
Have
sing.
you heard Because I Want to?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Because
And I think
Phillip didn't know it until fairly recently, but I lived in England, and so I was subjected to it for a time.
Yes.
Oh,
Bless her.
good times. I know. She was so little, and then she married Chris Evans, and it all got weird.
but it all turned out well enough.
It turned out just fine. Then she was a prostitute, and she had this diary or something, and yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
This is in her acting career. I hasten to add, not that Billie Piper
Yes.
became a prostitute. just to clarify that one before the lawsuits start flying in.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough.
Well, yeah, and I did like all the Doctor moments we've kind of talked about. Again, I'm a fan of the 13th Doctor's nose because she just has this crinkly way of just being annoyed or smiling or whatever, or like there's a part where like Yaz is it's like our hour's up and Yaz is like, no, I'll help you, and Doctor just gives this sort of expression of like, what'd you just do?
Yeah.
With
Her
crinkles
what
her
expression is brilliant.
Yes.
Yes.
Darling, any final thoughts on this episode? I did notice one last thing, that they did have the I don't know what you call it, the different theme tune at the end, sort of modified with a sort of a, I don't know what the right term is, subcontinent. I don't know how to make it neutral between India and Pakistan sound. So,
Yes. No, I thought that was magnificent. I thought after, obviously we had Rise Up came in for Rosa again, which I know a lot of people felt was a bit of overkill at the end. I thought it worked quite well personally, but I thought this absolutely raised the bar in that respect. I thought that end title music was absolutely superb.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put the whole episode pretty darn close to the top, maybe even tying with Rosa. Rosa, the history of Rosa, obviously, as people who live in the South of America, is something that's a little closer to the bone for us.
Of course.
But I thought this one was beautiful, and now I want to go do all this research and.
I still think Rosa is the better episode personally, but I think that's because of the shock value that it had with Ryan getting slapped in the early stages and and the dawning realization that it was actually the Doctor and her companions who were the ones who actually had to be there at that time to make history happen. Whereas
and the fact that it was awkward,
or to keep
yes,
from not
happening, yes. And again, they were almost in that same situation then. I mean, the Doctor's face when the gunshot rings out at the end, that pained look of the helplessness that she couldn't do anything because otherwise, had Prem survived, obviously he would have gone off with Umbreen, and then there would have been no Yaz. So she couldn't. She literally couldn't interfere.
And she could never visit exotic Sheffield.
Oh, if you've ever been to Sheffield. That's brilliant. But there's obviously something exotic about Sheffield because Umbreen's accent was far more Indian in 2018 than it was in 1947.
Well, there you go.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know, I think maybe I did enjoy this episode more than Rosa. Of course, I enjoyed them both. But I think what Rosa has is that it affected everyone in that episode. In other words, there was this awkward thing where the gang could never talk anywhere because they didn't belong anywhere. You couldn't have a white, black, brown person talking anywhere in Alabama in a public place, not in a hotel, not in a and so the environment affected the team. Whereas here, they're all fine. It's just the people that they're encountering that are having issues.
Yes, and thankfully they Prem and not Manish obviously, but the rest of Prem's family and Umbreen's family were very tolerant. But as was mentioned several times, the fact that it was the British who forced this situation upon them, they weren't the exactly flavour of the month there as a nation.
Yes.
So
I like Graham's like, all the way from England, and Prem's like, I wouldn't
don't go down that road.
Oh, I remember what it was. I did like the throwaway line where Prem says, "Your Punjab's very good," indicating, that the TARDIS translator is working her magic. But it was just a little throwaway line. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, there it is, I thought that was a nice moment.
Mm-hmm. There were some lovely lines in this. There was the conversation between Graham, Ryan, and Prem, where Graham says, "All we can strive to be is good men." I thought that was a lovely line. The Doctor's ceremony speech I thought was very nice as well.
Yes.
And then Prem, when he goes off to face his brother and the lynch party, saying, what was it? "These are demons I have to face alone."
Yeah.
Harking back to the title of the episode and making you think, that's not the demons, these are the demons, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
All ties in, yeah.
And I also thought that Graham was very much playing the grandpa in this episode, and I don't mean that just to Ryan, though, to Ryan, but he was sort of like the old wise man. I mean, he was, not in a pompous way or anyone, because he's a very simple man, but he was sort of saying these sort of wise truisms from someone who's lived a life to Ryan about all these things. And
do you think perhaps it was a nod to the fact that the holy man, the wise man, is assassinated fairly early, or dies. Assassinated fairly early on, and so somebody has to fill that role. Yeah.
Yes. I thought again, Bradley Walsh knocked it out of the park in this one. That scene again with Prem, where he knows at this point that Prem is going to die, and the emotion in his face, the quiver in his lip, and you can see the tears welling up in his eyes. It's a superb piece of acting. He's once again he's showing people exactly how good an actor he is.
Jessica.
Shut up. I know. But yes, no, he has proved to be much more invaluable than I initially was prepared to give him credit for. And so I was wrong.
Well, we've been down this route before with, obviously, when Billie Piper was cast as Rose, and everybody thought, oh no, she's a singer, she's a pop star. What's this going to be about?
A one-hit wonder.
Wonder, yes.
Yeah.
But again, she showed her range, and from an acting perspective, she was extremely good. We had it with Nicholas Parsons in Curse of Fenric. He was known as a game show host. And again, he was one of the standouts from that particular story. And Bradley Walsh is doing exactly the same on this, which just goes to show that you shouldn't judge somebody by the one thing that you know them for, because people can be a lot more talented and have a much wider range of abilities than you first think.
Yes, Catherine Tate, I think, is another
yes,
good
exactly,
example.
yeah, perfect example.
Well, Miles, we'll give you the last word here about this episode and the 13th Doctor.
I thought that the look of it, again, was magnificent. And that the scene where they're riding on the cart with the oxen pulling it tells you that we are definitely not 1963 to 1989 territory.
It definitely was not a quarry in Wales.
It definitely wasn't. I do think potentially that one of the forest scenes may have been filmed in the UK, because that looked slightly more UK based, but the rest of it was quite clearly somewhere else. And yes, not filmed in a quarry, and not Cardiff made to look like somewhere else. I thought the special effects were exceptional. I thought the transmat effects from the Vajarians were brilliant. And that scene where they found the ship and they get transported inside the ship was particularly well done, because the Doctor is speaking and continues the sentence as they go inside without any break whatsoever, and you can just, the tone of it all changes when they're inside the ship, and it just added to the fact that this strange sort of swirly disappearing effect just brought it home as to how good that was. I thought the music cool as well throughout, again, evoking the flavour of the region, again was something that lifted the episode. So on the whole, yes, I would say that after what some people have considered possibly a rough couple of weeks, we're right back on form again with this, and ironically, a non-Chris Chibnall penned episode. Yeah. Whether that's because as showrunner he's having to focus on everything and therefore not able to focus on the stories that he's writing so much, I don't know. Whether this means that as time goes on he should maybe allow more people to come up with the stories and he just deal with the overreaching things from the season. Because those are the episodes that we've had so far that have really stood out.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course they've been, written by exceptional writers as well.
Yes, ones who had a personal...
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
It's not just, whoever's in the writer's room. It's go out and find these writers and bring them into this, which I think is great.
Yes, and as good a writer as Chris Chibnall is, as good a writer as Stephen Moffat or Russell T Davies have been, you couldn't have had Rosa written by anyone other than a black man or woman, ideally woman. Yeah. Similarly with this, you had to have somebody of Indian Pakistan descent originally, writing this story. If it had been written by a 48-year-old white man, then it really wouldn't have had the same flavour, because you have to be deeply ingrained in that story to start with to make it come out the way it's come out. Because
I imagine it's a great end joke of, I don't remember the name, but like an Uncle Manju, like everyone has an Uncle Manju. He's like, yes, that one.
That's the one.
All right, Miles, well, if folks want to talk to you more about the 13th Doctor adventures or any of the classic Who that came before it, where can they find you on the interwebs?
They can find me predominantly on Facebook. I am there. Miles Northcott is my name. I don't think there's any more of me other than me out there, so you can find me there. You can find me through Doctor Whose Line Is It Anyway? We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about Doctor Who at any point. If anybody wants to listen to our podcast, then it's on iTunes or Apple Music, I suppose I should call it now. And again, you can find us through Twitter and Facebook. And of course, if anybody wants to actually join in, as Philip has done, and as hopefully Jessica will do at some point, then obviously we're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to do so. We're always on the lookout for people, and everybody is welcome to come and have a go. You know, even if they don't think they can do it, give it a try. It's fun. We have a laugh.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, Miles.
That's all right. No, thank you for having me. I'm only a recent devotee to your podcast, but I've enjoyed every episode I've listened to so far and will continue to do so.
When you close your eyes,
I go to the library.
go to the library now.
Now we go into the TARDIS library, and this time we're going to be doing a book. We're going to be doing Dying in the Sun by Jon de Burgh Miller, if I'm saying that name correctly. This book was released 1 October 2001. And, darling, do you want to do the synopsis here?
Yes, please. It was the City of Angels, and the angels were screaming. Los Angeles, 1947. Multimillionaire movie producer Harold Reitman has been murdered, and the LAPD are convinced that drug dealer Robert Chait is the killer. Detective William Fletcher isn't so sure. He believes that the man who calls himself the Doctor has a stronger connection to the crime than he's letting on. While the Doctor assists the police with their inquiries, Starlight Pictures are preparing to release their most eagerly anticipated movie yet, Dying in the Sun, a film that rumors say will change the motion picture industry forever. Suspecting that the film holds secrets more terrifying than anyone could ever have imagined, the Doctor decides to do everything in his power to stop it from being released. In Hollywood, however, it is the movie studios that hold all the power.
Now, this is a book that you have read and that I haven't, so you'll be giving me a non-spoilery review here.
Okay. Yes,
so,
this is my book report.
Exactly,
for
by
today.
Jessica Nunn.
By Jessica Nunn.
You double-spaced everything in font 14. Wait a minute.
Yeah. And used that, what is it, Courier New that made all the font just a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. It was perfect.
Now, it's interesting just from the, because I know nothing about this, but just the summary, it almost sounds like a film noir. Is that what it is, or is it just the description?
It maybe could be considered that way a little bit, but not really. This was a second Doctor adventure with Ben and Polly, and that was very exciting because I haven't seen very much of them in the television series that we've watched thus far. And it was really interesting. The idea is, and now I'm mulling over, am I giving spoilers away? The idea is that the movie is drawing people into this cult-like thing.
Okay.
And of course, aliens are involved. This was a lot. There was a lot going on in this. There were the police, there were the police were heavily involved. The synopsis suggests that it's just Detective Fletcher, but there are lots of different police officers involved. And then there's the underground crime syndicate people, and then there's the movie people, the movie people, and it was a lot to keep in my head as to which characters were doing what, and which characters were bad, and which were good, and which were kind of bad, but maybe not too bad. And then Polly goes off and does her own thing, and that doesn't turn out necessarily all that well.
What?
Yeah. Spoilers, she does actually fire a gun at some point. Yeah. So that's worth checking out. It was a good story. It didn't feel 100% like a Doctor story.
Mm-hmm. I just give this the idea, or at least again from the summary, of the Second Doctor solving a murder. This doesn't seem very Second Doctor-y, but I don't know. What do I know?
Yes, and again, it was definitely sci-fi because the aliens are there, but I think it could have stood on its own. I mean, the Doctor could have been any detective. He could have been, Fletcher could have figured the whole thing out. I mean, he wasn't portrayed as particularly bright, so maybe not him, but a police detective who was following it through. So, yeah, I'm not sure I learned anything new about Ben and Polly and the Doctor from this.
And so it's an American set story.
Yes.
Is that weird, or because I assume it's a British writer?
I don't know if it's a British writer or not. No, not necessarily weird. Just not doctory.
Right.
The TARDIS doesn't feature at all. Obviously, with the Second Doctor, there's no screwdriver or anything like that. So it really is just the Doctor using his deductive reasoning. And like I say, that could have anybody.
How does he fit in, or does he? Like into the era, how does he make himself, or does it just...
Yeah, there's no suggestion that he makes himself fit in at all.
Oh, okay.
I would also like to point out that at no point does he play the recorder.
So disappointing.
Yeah, all the things that I look for in a doctor,
my giddy aunt,
aren't there. Mm-hmm. And he's apparently there because the first man who's killed, Harold Reitman, was a friend of his, apparently, from something. And so, again, it felt like it didn't need to be a Doctor story. Mm-hmm. There were aliens, so it was sort of film noir meets sci-fi, meets cop movie, meets, it was a little muddled. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really interested to read another Doctor book, because I'm not sure that this one, while I enjoyed it, I'm not sure this one makes me go, yes, I need to read more in the Doctor Who series.
And what about, you mentioned Polly, what about Ben? He's usually the random testosterone man.
Yeah, no, he mostly just sort of follows around after the Doctor.
Okay.
He doesn't really get a whole lot of his own sort of action. And Polly's off doing...
Princess.
Yes, and well, interestingly enough, because one of the things about this is that there's a way, and again, I don't want to do many spoilers, there's a way that the movie stars are appearing even more beautiful and alluring and amazing to the general public, and she gets involved in that and becomes more beautiful and charming and alluring to the public. And then has a moment of being kind of nasty to the Doctor and Ben. So, yes, if Princess is what her general character is on the show...
Well, that's what Ben always calls her.
Oh, right. Then, yes, she lives up to that. But like I say, I didn't feel like I walked away knowing a whole lot more about Polly and Ben.
Or even the Second Doctor.
Yeah. So...
Okay. So would you recommend this, or what would be your... 1 to 5, or yes or no, or what is it? Buy, borrow, trash, or whatever.
Buy, borrow, trash. I think borrow. I mean, it's a good little story. Again, like I say, there were a lot of characters, and so I got confused in places. Trying to figure out who fit into where, and because again, and we've talked about this watching the show. With this many characters, it was hard to care about anybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm not 100% sure there were any real good guys other than the Doctor and Ben, and not even Polly, because she does her thing. So, yeah, that's for me, that's a frustrating thing. But I think it's definitely worth reading. It's an interesting story. Again, you get the aliens who are not evil necessarily. Even though they are a threat, they are not necessarily evil. And that I always like that, where it's not just, hey, they're bad guys. But again, we don't get a whole lot of history on the aliens, and it's just that they're there, and we've got to figure out how to get rid of them. And so, yeah.
Okay.
Borrow it.
Okay.
Borrow it. I give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. Well, there you go. Sounds like a review. So, if you would like to send us any further Doctor Who book suggestions, maybe you can borrow us. We'll do a little book exchange program.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. You can reach me at NC Public Servant on Twitter.
And I'm at One Phoenix Theater.
So next week we'll be talking Kerblam!
That was scary.
Well, that is the next episode title.
For the 13th?
Yes.
Excellent.
So until next week, enjoy watching, listening, and reading about the Doctor's adventures throughout time and space.
This is BBC Television.